Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we are continuing on with the My Favorite LJN Manager Tournament. So, in the last video, we saw the orange jacket Jimmy Hart, Nasty Boys design, defeating pink shirt referee. We followed that up as the red shirt or red jacket, Freddie Blassie, defeated Elizabeth with black skirt. Brother Love then defeated the original Jimmy Hart. And finally, the yellow Mega Powers Elizabeth defeated Paul Bearer. So I didn't write these names down yet. I'm filming all these videos back to back, so I'm going to have to come back and write them down and have it prepared for you guys. So, we did 4 matchups last video. It was supposed to be 5, but because the video was running a little bit longer than I'd like, I'm going to keep these down to 4 matchups per video. So, the 5th matchup that was supposed to happen was the alternate black version of Mean Gene Okerlund as he squares off against the black-suited Jimmy Hart. And that is a different... Yeah. That's going to be the Hart Foundation, Jimmy Hart color scheme. So, with that name already being drawn, we are moving on to the next matchup. And that is going to feature another Mean Gene Okerlund. This one with white jacket. As he squares off against painted Mr. Fuji. Alright, so we're going to look at Bobby Heenan in black as he squares off against another Mean Gene Okerlund in plain white. Last matchup is going to feature original Lou Albano as he does battle against Purple Slick. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these figures and I will be back in a second. Alright, everybody. So I do have the 4 matchups of figures pulled, and we are ready to begin. And 3 Mean Gene Okerlund figures in this video. I don't want this video to be boring, but man, like we keep seeing the same guy over and over again. I should have done a better job shuffling up this hat, but at least you guys will be able to knock out all the different figures I have for Mean Gene, so that's pretty awesome at least. Alright, so first figure we're looking at is Jimmy Hart with the Hart Foundation color scheme. This is your mid-1980s Hart Foundation when they were decked out in black and blue. Now, this is actually one of those Eric Boyer Wrestling Writer figures, and this was one I specifically, sent him, like I do. I send figures to certain people, like Rob Jackson, like Eric Boyer, etc., because, they do phenomenal work for me, and I trust them and whatnot, and, they deserve my business, so. And it allows me to get figures that I have, duplicates of, and, be able to get figures that I want made, and don't have to pay a fortune to buy from someone else, so, that it's a little bit more cost effective for me, and, I think he did a really solid job, and, yeah, I mean, it's basically just your regular white original LJN. Obviously, a lot of places where you see the musical notes, where they had red on the jacket, they changed it to blue. He kept the hearts on the megaphone and whatnot. So, very solid figure all around. And I've already said I've got like 2 different Nasty Boys versions of Mean Gene or of Jimmy Hart. In black, one in orange. You got his run with the Hart Foundation, so different color schemes that match up with that particular figure. Oh, my buddy Mark Hackenberg. I've talked about him as well. He is one of my favorite customizers of LJNs. I've purchased a ton of figures from him in the past. Occasionally he'll send me messages, showing off some of the new figures he's done. He's got a new, absolutely amazing Jimmy Hart figure that I highly recommend. Am I going to buy it? I'm kind of like I'm seesawing back and forth because I love the figure. I want it. It's like a Dino Bravo version of Jimmy Hart, which is fantastic. It's just that because I have so many Jimmy Hart figures, that's the only reason why I'm kind of holding off on it. But if you guys get on Facebook, look up Mark Hackenberg. If you want a really perfect custom of Jimmy Hart, check him out. Amazing. So, back to business. We've got Mean Gene Okerlund with alternate black suit squaring off against the Hart Foundation, Jimmy Hart. And we will start off with Mean Gene. So, you do alternate a few things. You know, for example, you eliminate the red of his shirt, you know, bow tie and the bottom of his shirt here. And you mix it up with gold, which is awesome. They've also changed the layout of the microphone, which is a much better look. Obviously, with the hands out like before, it gives more of a playability pose to it if you choose to utilize Mean Gene Okerlund in that way. But this way, you know, he's a commentator, right? He's a commentator, he's an interviewer, and I don't understand the whole... I mean, I do understand it. Let me rephrase. The point of having the microphone out like this is kind of like, you know, hold it up to the person's face and make it look like you're interviewing them, right? But this right here, you're talking into the microphone. I love this look. This one came from... Who did I buy this from? So many customs. It's really, really difficult to say every single one. Did I buy this from Justin? No, I don't think I did. I'm trying to think. It would help if I knew if I got this off Mercari or if I got this off eBay. That might narrow it down a little bit. Maybe Stangergq off eBay, possibly. Either way, so this is a fairly, well, not, it's a difficult choice. All in all, I think I like the Jimmy Hart figure better. You know, definitely more playable in that regard. But just for the simple fact, I love the way that his microphone is situated. You know, I don't mind it when people alternate body parts or whatnot. I've always said, I hate that action figures like these, because they're not as common as you might think anymore. As far as buying them, yeah, you know, you're not paying a fortune for these guys. But you keep customizing these figures, eventually they're not going to exist 20, 30 years down the road. And people that are going to be in their 60s, 70s, they're going to lose their childhood. To top that off, people who are in the future who could potentially get into some of the things from years past, they're not going to be able to find these anymore because people keep just cutting them up, creating new items. I've always said, if you've got a figure that's absolutely destroyed, where it's going to need like a total repaint, or there's rubber damage or what have you, in order to save that or to restore that figure, and you need to create something different like this, I'm perfectly fine with that. Tough choice, guys, but I am going to go with Mean Gene. I think this was kind of a unexpected answer. Originally, kind of looking at the two, I thought, you know, no doubt Jimmy Hart, but nah, Mean Gene all the way. Alright, so we said Jimmy Black goes there. And Mean Gene with alternate black stays here. Next matchup, we're going to feature another Mean Gene as he does battle against custom Mr. Fuji. So we will start with the Mr. Fuji. Not a total repaint or anything. When you look at this figure, the only alteration that they made to this figure was adding, you know, eye paint or eyeshadow, whatever you want to call it. Kind of back in his managing demolition days. So kind of bleeds in with their color scheme a little bit. That's what that's all about. So other than that, you know, that eye paint, there's not really much change to the figure. Still the old figure that everybody loves, and I know this is Mr. Fuji of the 1980s. This is a very famous Mr. Fuji of the 80s, right? But for me, the 90s is when I really can remember wrestling. And Mr. Fuji was always that guy, you know, trekking behind Yokozuna with the Japanese garments and whatnot, and with the pail of rice and whatnot. So, kind of seeing him in the penguin suit, it just looks different. Now, when I go back and I watch old videos, old footage, of course, yeah, you see him in this all the time, and that's Mr. Fuji for you. Pose isn't bad, you know. Definitely a playable figure. He's got that thickness. Mr. Fuji and Lou Albano both, because they're both hefty figures, they're like Bundy. They're really fun to work with, even though they don't have the best pose. Period. Mr. Fuji was a wrestler too. I mean, most managers used to be wrestlers at one point. It's like baseball, right? You know, most coaches or managers in baseball are former minor league or major league ball players. So, Mr. Fuji, a solid look to him. I mean, just like the original, so not much to change. Mean Gene. This is basically your original style Mean Gene Okerlund. The only thing that they alternate on this figure is, you know, they swap out the black with the white. And this look, this 007 look right here, this really makes Mean Gene Okerlund pop. And I love this figure. This one is actually one I got from Harvey off of Mercari very recently. Harvey on Mercari. Fantastic look. Mean Gene Okerlund is one of those faces of childhood for me. So he's just one of those guys that will always mean the world. I don't care how old in this life I get. There's certain people that you're always going to appreciate. And Mean Gene, you know, when I was watching the WrestleMania 1 tape a couple weeks ago, I only got like an hour or so into the video, or hour and a half or something. But I intended to finish off that WrestleMania, but I just haven't been able to. I left off on Bundy versus, Stud versus Andre. The one match I actually wanted to see more than anything. Mean Gene Okerlund did the opening national anthem, and man, he's got a pretty solid singing voice. I like that. Mean Gene is going to defeat Mr. Fuji. I like the Mr. Fuji figure a lot, but in this tournament, I think Mean Gene Okerlund is going to be a front runner. He's got too many figures, and all of them are solid. So, 2 out of 2 have pushed forward now. Next matchup is going to feature, I believe that this is my last Mean Gene Okerlund. I could be wrong. But it's another Mean Gene in white, and he squares off against Black Bobby Heenan. Absolutely fantastic figures, both of them. This one I think came from Stangergq, if I'm not mistaken. And you just kind of compare the two figures. And they change out that. They sure did. So, you know, basically one is black bow tie with the black bottom. And he's got the red bottom with the red bow tie. So, basically your only change in its color scheme. And I have just destroyed this figure. Because this has like all this mark on the back now. And that sucks. Well, we haven't seen the original Mean Gene Okerlund yet, so there's still a possibility you could have 4 figures moving on. Because we've already basically seen this figure, just a different color scheme, let's start with Bobby Heenan. I did not notice this damage. That's terrible. Is it going to affect my overall opinion of this? I don't think so. And this is not a rubber figure. This is resin. And yep, his entire body. Well, no, because his legs move. All right, so maybe because they had to chop off the arms, obviously to give him this different pose. That's resin, but the body, I mean the back and stomach are all hard. So no, it's a hybrid figure. I actually really like this. And you guys know how much I despise when the hands are super in close like that. Think of Ram Treasure's Ivan Putski. I think that's one of the worst action figures ever created. And because the stupid hands are like this, and it's terrible. That is not a good pose. But he is a manager after all, and I kind of feel like if you're a kid or, you know, a lot of the adults that make these Playtime wrestling videos and you utilize him as he's supposed to, as a manager, that's not too shabby. This is still a fantastic look, great color scheme, and you know what? This guy. I don't know, I just like that. It just makes me laugh. So, you know, we've got two Mean Genes already pushing forward. This one is basically a copycat of the other, so I'm going to push forward Bobby Heenan. It's sad to lose that Mean Gene, but Bobby Heenan right there was just kind of a humorous, you know, it makes me laugh, so it has some purpose, so that's pretty awesome. Heenan black stays and Mean Gene white leaves. The last matchup of this video is going to feature original Lou Albano as he does battle against purple Mr. Slick. Alright, so we'll start off with fighting pose. When I was doing my wrestling matches and I was doing my Royal Rumbles, Lou Albano was like a bruiser in my tournaments, in my Royal Rumble matches. I'd bring him, when he'd enter the Rumble, I'd use him for quite a while, and he'd be like an enforcer type of deal. You know, bring in the pain, just beat down on everyone else. Because he's a big, hefty guy, he's a fun character to use, like Bundy and Big John Studd and whatnot. But he would never be like those guys who'd be like last four standing type of deal. I'd probably bring him early in the Rumble, maybe 6th guy in. Maybe he'd be gone by the 13th guy, 18th guy, something like that. But I would make him a major enforcer. Not the greatest fighting pose ever, but you know what? He does a lot of things interesting. You know, head through here, solid DDT. You can still go under for an over-the-shoulder body slam. I never liked the pointer fingers. I hate that they do that with so many figures. LJN, Hasbro, etc. But it still works. You still use it as a punchable figure and whatnot. Because he's got a lot of weight to him, he's bulky. He's a very enjoyable figure to use. If you're looking for playable figures, if that's like your go-to and really the only thing that you care about in this tournament, either a Freddie Blassie or a Lou Albano is going to win this thing. But I need to take other aspects into consideration. You know, what brings a smile to my face? What brings joy? What do I remember about those characters? I'm from Chicago, born and raised. I lived in Chicago until I graduated high school at 19, right? So, first 19 and a half years of my life, I lived in Chicago. And in Chicago, we have a few different amusement parks. For younger kids, you had Kiddieland. When you're like, you know, preteen, teenagers, you move on to like Santa's Village. And of course, teenagers to adults, you got Six Flags Great America. And you know, they're all, I mean, technically an adult could enjoy Kiddieland to an extent, but I mean, they're not like really tiny rides or anything. It's just, it's more catered towards the younger kids. And every time you'd be at home, you'd be watching TV, you'd be watching commercials, and the Kiddieland commercial would come on. And it's like their theme song was, "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." So whenever I think of Lou Albano, obviously the first thing I ever think about is Cyndi Lauper, and I think about her music video. And of course, you know, obviously Cyndi Lauper was like, you know, special guest during, what was it? Was it WrestleMania 1 or WrestleMania 2 when she appeared? I've been watching WrestleMania 1. I haven't seen her yet, so I'm thinking WrestleMania 2, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty awesome. Great figure overall. And Slick could be one of my least favorite LJNs, period. The figure is so small and so thin. He's like another Elizabeth type figure. Not quite that dollish, but, you know, close enough. His pose isn't all that great. I mean, he's technically a macho man figure to an extent, with the way that his hands are straight up like that, right? The thing that I love about Slick, whether you're looking at any of the custom figures I have, or if you're looking at his original LJN figure, the suit, the three-piece suit that he has is so well done. The design looks great, and I look at that gray suit from the original, I'm like, shoot, this is something I would love to wear. And this came from Justin over at the Raider Nation, and artist Kenny Lester. And I think this is one of Kenny's best work. With the purple, I thought was more pimpish, which I thought was incredible. A nice offset with both dark and purple. So, all around quality, I think this is fantastic. So, in this case, it's really a better color scheme, better design against a better playable figure. Well, I appreciate pose first and foremost, right? So Lou Albano's my winner. Would make sense. I don't know, man. I just can't do it. I think in this particular matchup, I got to go with Slick. I just, you know, the Slick figure just brings me more happiness, I guess. Like, I really appreciate the artistry that Kenny put into this. And you know what? Most of the time, you might see a custom figure win my tournaments for the simple fact that it's something different, it's unique. A lot of the time, you might be the only person that has that particular type of figure. So, this is an awesome piece, and Slick is going to defeat Lou Albano. So, Lou Albano goes there, and Slick goes there. Alright, so it looks like I got 4 matches. We're probably going to be hovering around 25 minutes per video. Luckily, I'm not going too in-depth with a lot of these matchups, and I didn't think I would. So I was really hoping that these videos would basically hover between 15 to 18 minutes, but 25 minutes, I think we could live with that. Right now, we've completed a second video. Am I going to stay down here for a third? Probably not. Let's get these videos up first before I start making some more of these videos. So that is going to close round 1, part 2 for now. And until next time, look forward to talking to you in the comments, hearing your thoughts. Who do you think should have won in these matchups? And do you like the customs? I mean, I love doing the shout-outs, and that these tournaments are just as much shout-out videos as they are, you know, selection videos. So, alright guys, that's it for now. Thank you again for watching, as always. I will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.